Hey, how are we doing? We are live. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Let me switch a few things around here just so we don't mix anything up. Just a second, everyone. Just like the title says, day-to-day life as a full-time reseller. I'm going to literally lay out pretty much what I do on a day and a week today because I've had that question just so many times. And it's a fair question, I guess. I know people put together videos and stuff on what they do, but a lot of what I do, I just wouldn't want to show everybody where I go and phone calls I make and things like that. Just not my thing to give away all the secrets here. Most of what I do is talking about stuff that most people don't. So anyway, sometimes I take some grief on some videos. No offense to anybody. When that happens, you don't like a video, you don't like a video. So that's just the way it is. But you're gonna take some grief when you put out videos sometimes. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Um, what was I gonna start off with this morning? Let's just give you a day. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Let's just pop over to make sure my stream is playing and everybody can hear me. Hang on just a second. I know I'm kind of scattered right now. I've just got to switch a few more pages over. Do apologize. If everybody can hear me, I'll be able to see the chat in just a second here, I sure hope. Hang on, I'm waiting for something to load. Yeah, it's taking forever today. Sorry, folks. I'll be there in just 1 second. Just a second. Yeah, it's running really slow today. It's YouTube because I was on somewhere else already, so there we go. Okay, it's just loading right now. Let me just shoot out just a couple coming up things that are coming up. The Weebles video is going to be coming up really soon. The last shots were already done. It's going to be 3 parts as of now. Wife's in it. This one's, we wrote out a script and it's going to be well done. You're going to get to see what a fanatic collector on a category is. You're going to get to see some really interesting toys and stuff from other countries and examples of stuff you just don't see very often. We buy a lot of stuff for Weebles and stuff like that all the time. There's a book we've been working on forever. It's like one of those side projects. You do a few minutes here, a couple pages, get some new photos. A book like that, you gotta deal with other folks too to secure photos for items that are very scarce, that there's very few around, and it takes some time to figure out who and proper contacts and stuff like that. So somebody else put a Weeble book out, I think like 7 or 8 years ago maybe, and I want to say that person said he took 11 years to put it together. I don't know if that was the exact amount, but I know it was some horrendous amount of time to do something like that. But that video is coming out tomorrow for those in Patrons. The last part of that, we're going to look at some postcards, and I'm just going to pull out, I got a whole bunch here. We're going to pull out some, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to touch on the stamp side of it too in Patreon. YouTube video, I've got a couple done, so I'm not sure which one I'll put up, so it'll just be a surprise for tomorrow. I've got a bolo done. I've got a how-to on listing things, and I did do a new one on pricing, eBay pricing. I touched on that on a video just from I didn't put a video up yesterday. Our schedule has been pretty well screwed around this whole week with some family-related issues, so my time has been kind of preoccupied this week here. So I don't know. I'm scatterbrained a little bit tonight, so you'll have to excuse me. I'm on a happier note. It's my 29th anniversary today. Me and Marky have been married for 29 years, been together for just over 30, happily married. Not many from the old days, from when we got married, from the group of people we hung out with. I think there's only one couple, I think, that's actually still together out of a whole big group of people. We had there was 110 people that worked, or 111, I think, in the one area we worked, and everybody knew everybody for a long time. It was rare to get new employees, so there was a tight group of people that we still talk to. We're actually in some Disney-only groups that you have to have worked for Disney and stuff like that. Here on Facebook, that the wife talks to people still, and I talk to some of our friends too, but not many are left these days. So it's always good to find those who have been together a while. As everybody knows, I'm a family person. I see Dom's on here, Primetime Treasure Hunter, one of our good friends here. He just celebrated, I think he said, his 20th, if I'm not mistaken. So congratulations to Dom and his wife as well. I'm always happy to hear somebody who's been together for at least 20 years. Takes working together and teamwork just like anything. That's just my take on it. You don't have to be married. There's nothing, if you're not married, you're single, you want to be single. I'm not trying to make light of anybody who isn't married. So it's just, whatever your take is on, that's your take. Everybody has their own life, and I don't bug into anybody else's life. I don't, care what anybody else does with theirs. If they're happy, that's all that matters in my book. So anyway, yeah, I thank everybody for the happy anniversary shout-outs. We had planned to do some stuff tonight, but as I said, our schedule is pretty much shot anyway, so we'll have to catch the dinner and, the whole works out in another day. I almost didn't do the video because we didn't know what we were going to do, or the live show tonight. So anyway, I figured our plans are shot and everything anyway, so at this point we might as well shoot the show out. So anyway, again, 29 years, happily married. We met at Walt Disney World, literally while we were working there. I honestly remember the first day I saw my wife because she walked into the place I was working at and was goofing off, being silly and stuff. So anyway, it was a love at first sight, I guess. Anyway, it was a happily ever after kind of thing. So anyway, let's see, where are we at? Got a whole bunch of people on already. Let's just, I always get the 3 thumbs down. I guess people don't like people who are married. I don't know why people with thumb down conversation on. It's probably the same 3 that always do it, but I shouldn't even look at that, honestly. Down to a typical day. And then we'll go to some questions and some call-outs. I don't want to not get this in here. I start off earlier. Most people, I don't know what your days are, but I take our youngest to school every day these days. I don't want them waiting out and stuff like that. So I take them to school. Usually I'm literally here in, our office or our pilot seat, I guess you could call it. And by 7:05, 7:10 at the very latest usually. And from that point on, it's pulled my orders from wherever I've sold something from. So I may have to open up, 3 or 4 laptops. I'll have eBay on one, maybe Amazon and another one, and Etsy and Discogs or whatever the case may be, Hip or whatever. And from there, I'll literally just open and pull stuff out. When you're doing multiple stores on eBay, you have to have separate logins for each one. And usually I try to keep one PC just for one, and on the back of each one it says which account it is. So I always know which one I'm using for which, and it's the one that it also has all like passwords and everything all specific to each one, and the whole works like that too. So that's how I go about my day. I get all my orders pulled from there wherever I've got a print. I usually do post-it notes to say 17 or 47 orders here, or Discogs, we got 17 or 18 records going out. If I got 5 or 6, 7, 8 Hip postcards going out, maybe there's something going out on Amazon, Merchant Fulfilled or something. All that stuff's written down, separately, and then I hit them one by one. I usually do the biggest accounts and the hardest stuff first. I always do that. I always get the hardest things out of the way, so if something happens, I'm always ready to go. So that's usually till like from 7 till probably 10, 10:30. Depends on the day. Mondays it's usually till 11, and sometimes I'm still packing and pulling, at 12, 12:30, even 1 o'clock on occasion. And that's just solid work. Sometimes there's employees. It really depends on any day of the week as to how much I've got to pull and who's working or coming in that day. Because sometimes I may have somebody else pack. If somebody else packs, literally then I'm doing something else like pricing, pulling, sorting, or maybe even messing around with some listings or something, checking keywords out. I do keyword searches like once a week. on certain areas. I do price comp searches. At least 4 times a week I'm pricing something. So I also look at certain items every time I price to see where they fall on there to see if things have changed. It's usually high dollar items. I've got a list of things that I always look for. I used to have to write those down, but these days I just go ahead and got them in my head. I know what I look for. So I check prices week by week by week by week by week by week for years on some items, and it gives me a general flow on key areas of our business. There's like a telltale group of items, like say for one niche that we sell on, and then for another one, that kind of give you an overall idea on where the category is going, I guess you could say. It's just something I've always done. So if I'm not packing, that's what I'm doing. Today I finished packing. It was before 11, I know, because I literally had to wait a few minutes to print up the labels. I don't print the labels till the clock strikes 11. At 11 o'clock, I print, and that's the end of the day for shipping. I don't care what happens, what goes on. 11 o'clock's the end of shipping, no matter what. It's from that point on, it's printing the labels and then sticking them on to the boxes, packages, envelopes if I've got to do some hip items or something like that. That's how my morning starts. If I finish packing up earlier, let's say, a lot of FBA or something, I don't have to worry about it, or it's been a slow day on eBay, I could be done in like 2 hours or so, depending if it's just mostly paper. So literally by 9, I try to, again, see who's working. If somebody's working, they usually don't come in until 10 usually, unless I need them pack, of course. And then I'll set up who's ever working at that point, and just go from there. So if somebody's coming in a photograph, I'll pull out what they have. I'll sort them by, like if I'm doing postcards, let's put it this way. If I'm doing postcards and they're going to take scans of postcards, they're all going to be sorted by state, and they're going to be sorted by price usually. So if I've got like 20 that are $9.99 from California, they're all going right next to each other. So when they scan, it's, they're right in the same order. He pulls them over to list. They're all going to be in the same order. No changing of categories, no changing of prices. My description box never changes for a postcard. So if he's listing 100 postcards, he's only messing with whoever it is. He's only messing with the title, the photos, condition, and price. Everything else is the same. Every single thing else. I've got set policies, set shipping standards. Those are default. My paper items are my set default in the store I share with you for my my policies. Everything that is tied to paper is my set default. So if it's not a paper item, my guys know they have to change that and stuff like that. But when you set everything up to list, you set it up so when you're listing them, it's done as quick as possible. No changing categories. Now, I've seen people that will scan cards, and I've talked to people and stuff on occasion. I've done in the past consultations. I don't do them anymore just for time frame, but they'll just throw a bunch of postcards and they're not thinking anything of it, and they'll scan them and they'll be changing categories like between every single postcard. I know it doesn't take a long time, but you multiply that times 100, and you're losing the ability to list maybe 20 more items in that same time frame. So by 11, hopefully somebody's here working. It depends on the day of the week, and usually I'll set them up, and then I'll move on to something else. Sometimes I'll run out and do a pick. I did a pick, well, it wasn't quite yesterday morning. It was really late the night before, just by schedule with other people. Sometimes I've ran out to somebody's house like 2:30 in the morning, just because that's when he's available. If people work oddball shifts, like second shift, it's sometimes hard because they might not get home till 12:31, and then if I don't get to somebody at a certain time, they're going on to possibly having somebody else the next morning show up to look at the items. So anyway, that's literally what I did yesterday. That's pretty much my schedule. And literally people be coming in and out through the day, so I'll have to set up stuff for other people, or the wife does. If I'm picking up something, because I've had a few calls to get some cool stuff. If you follow me on Instagram, the Auction Professor on Instagram as well. I think it's Auction Professor, not the, but you'll see that I got a haul the other day for some really nice Kodachrome slides. It's a real nice collection, about 1,000 or better slides, I think was the estimate. and I literally thought I got skunked at first, but one box out of there was newer slides. All the rest were 1940s and 50s Kodachrome reds. There was some blue from another company that sell okay, and there was some, I don't know who knows slides very well, but there was some Kodachrome duplicates with the orange border, which is pretty cool too. I don't see those that often, so those do sell as well. But the images in there are of Busan, Korea, and what was built at the time, the world's largest military base in existence, the busiest one, I think, as well, or something. There's some really nice images in there, really expensive images as well, too. But I've got a little video on Instagram. If you don't know, I do post videos on Instagram. They're minute long because obviously that's what you can do on Instagram. So if you want to check out some stuff before you might see it in a video, you'll see them on Instagram. It's just the way I do it. I have downloaded them. I may put all the Instagram videos together in a compilation video and post that on those in Patreon, just so you won't have to go over and do it. I might put up Evan or Ian or somebody to do that maybe tomorrow or the next day. I do have people that work on the weekends here too, just FYI. If somebody has some scheduling issues and they can't get in, I try to let them get their hours. And if I'm not doing anything, I don't care. I can just set them up, let them do their thing, and go about the rest of my day doing whatever I want. They're people we trust, here, so I don't really worry if, one of us comes or goes. I don't really check on them or have to worry too much. At the end of their shift, they've got a nice little stack of posty price stickers. So, I usually do counts to see how much they list on a given shift, just to try it and compare to see if they're getting quicker, if maybe there's some shortcut we can show or something like that. But, I work till 8 o'clock at night usually on eBay, Amazon, Etsy, or Walmart or something, usually every single night, Monday through Friday. Sundays these days I don't do any reselling. Technically, you could say it's all art things. Not necessarily for my art professor channel, but it's projects that I do on the side. We've been working on an animated cartoon for quite some time. Got a lot of money invested into it. I think we're up to heading towards $4,000 in invested time into it, for people animating and stuff like that. So one day it'll be out. These are things when you're doing it piece by piece, a few seconds here, a few seconds there, that take a lot of time. I saw a video on the guys who did South Park, and what they did for the first one. I don't know if anybody knows South Park. It was created with literally cutouts of construction paper, and they moved them around, piece by piece. So I've done that kind of stuff back when I was a kid. So I know what they did. It's 24 frames per second. You shoot 2 seconds or one frame twice, so 12 frames per second for most of it. But anyway, it takes a lot of time. Let's go on and go back to get off the content there, or that part of it. But my day is usually done by 8. I usually go to bed, like last night. I didn't go to bed really late, but usually I'm to bed at 1 o'clock. I'm literally turning everything off. And I'm usually, as I said, up 5 to 6 in the morning every morning. Sometimes I go out to sales that early too. Around here, there's a few flea markets that you can get into by 7. That are an hour or so away, and sometimes I'll get out to those, or there'll be a sale or meeting somebody, as I said. So most of the time is listing. I do phone calls in the afternoon if I've got clients I got to hit up or something like that. So I'll do a lot of phone calls in the afternoon, calling prior people that I've dealt with, calling clients for our art business, because again, I don't just resell, as some of you know. I do other things. So my day is split up sometimes between multiple tasks. Without the employees, I couldn't do all that, of course. So that's why employees are a big plus. But I'll call and, set up my clients. We'll set up, contracts, deals, I guess you could say, purchases, future purchases, things along that line. I do artwork for some local people. I do some technical stuff still, sometimes for it's a women's church group that runs a thrift store. So just FYI. Call out to Casey too. I did run into a subscriber Casey, and I think it was Casey K. Hello, nice meeting you. I have talked in the past about doing a meetup, possibly. Um, Things obviously these days have been a little hectic with all the issues going on with family and stuff, so I'm still thinking about that. I've had a lot of people reach out to me who are fairly local who would show up. So, I at least have a dozen people from the way it sounds. I don't know how far everybody is in the whole works, but I know there's a lot of people here in my local area that are an hour or so away or so, and then it would drive. So I may do that still. I would be looking for, a venue somewhere to do it at. The library here has a room. I just haven't had a chance to get over there and talk to them. So that is something on my list of things to do. Let's see who's here. I don't want to miss anybody, but that's a little bit on my day. If you got questions specifically tied to a specific activity or how I do things or time frame, you can shout that out too. It'd be interesting if we could stick to daily life stuff that goes on, maybe just kind of keep it on topic. I know I'm terrible on stuff like that, but it would be interesting. Hustle and Grind, how you doing? Cornelius, good evening. There's Dom as well. Anna Siri, not sure if I pronounced that right, but welcome. Creative Uniques, welcome. And there's Aaron. Thumbs up back to you, Aaron. And we've got Carl right below. Good evening, Carl. Again, Patreon video will be up tomorrow. It's literally done, I think. If I feel like finishing it, I will compile it. I think I just have to put on the credits. I just wanted to update the Patreon names before it goes up. So I think that's all I was literally waiting on. That takes 15 or 20 minutes, so I may still do that tonight. I don't really know yet. Either way, it'll be done tomorrow because that's all that's left on it. I know all the footage has been done for a few days. I just haven't had a chance to put the credits and the continuation comments and things back into it. So Patreon tomorrow. I do have another one for this weekend, and I have a 5-minute one that I didn't put the title on yet either, that I had done last week that I haven't gotten it up. But that hopefully will be up this week too. But you have the long one up tomorrow. I'm going to do another store review for Patreon as well. So, it's literally going down the list in order for those in Patreon. I think I just got another person asking for a store review today, and I think another person put their name on yesterday. So anyway, let's see, where are we at? Leo, welcome. Good evening. Someone in my family was named Leo. They were someone in the military, actually. Someone who won a Congressional Medal of Honor. Let's see here. Bluegrass Picker, good evening. Diane, how are you doing? I got Rob down there as well. Let me slide down. Karen, good evening. Stony Creek Pickers, good evening as well. Sambai, how are you doing? Crazy Javier, hopefully I say that correctly. Crazy Javier. Took me a minute to get the name. I'm not great on some of the names on here sometimes. Pollyanna Wilson, how are you doing? Thank you very kindly. Danny, good evening. Hey, Karen, how are you doing, Karen? Again, video up tomorrow for Patreon. Flipopolis, how are you doing? Balta, let's see here. Have you ever thought about real estate in your flipping journey? We flipped houses in Mississippi. I wouldn't do it again because of that. One of my first jobs ever was working for Michigan, Ohio Publishing Company here in this state. When I was in high school, I did the yearbook staff and the newspaper staff, and I drew the illustrations. One of the first ones I did was for Chicago 17, the album. I did a little illustration. So if anybody knows Toledo, there's some newspapers out there back when I was like 16 that have that in it, because they published a newspaper, I think it was once a month or something. But I did that, and that got me a job at a publishing company doing page layout on the old Macs, just the old little brick-looking Macs. I don't even remember the name of them. It was a PageMaker we used back then, And then we did halftone, so I used a Daylighter 6000, and I'd go out and take real estate pictures of the houses sometimes when they were shorthanded. And they actually were real estate brokers, and they actually asked me if I would want to stick around, but my goal was to get out of town and get away from everything going around here, and that's what I did. I had a chance to get it paid for, and I didn't do it. I've thought about it. We have flipped houses in the past. So, I've done some of that to some extent, but in Mississippi, Katrina came through and destroyed it, and we sunk a lot of money into it, and then we couldn't get the money back out. Insurance company basically screwed us. FEMA gave us $4,000 to fix the roof, which I ended up having to fix myself with that money just to get a roof on it, because the amount of money they gave us wasn't enough to repair the damage from a tree clipping like a 20-foot span of the roof. And so we just did it, fixed the roof, and that's all we really got chance to fix. And then there was just so much water and mold, and it just didn't go anywhere. We lost a lot of money. Like at that point, it was like every dime we had saved up. So I won't do real estate anytime soon. Again, we did flip them. We had a couple. We were remodeling and we gut them, and I do the plumbing, I did the wiring. And then the woodwork. My father was a woodworker, and I've taken classes at Meridian when I was in Meridian, Mississippi. So I took cabinetry classes and stuff, and I built all the cabinets and all that kind of stuff ourselves. I did arts and crafts ceilings, and we scavenged all of the salvage yards, and I had some really nice stained glass lighting fixtures. And our bathroom had the old subway tiles on a stand-up shower stall that I built with the octagonal tiles on the floor, and it had a bench, and we had a mirror that was from a 1920s maple dresser was the mirror in the bathroom. We found a pedestal sink, and we decked it all out. I mean, we spent a lot of money, and we lost it. It would have been great because it was positioned for management type of rental we were going to do with it, because it was just enough distance from Jackson to be desirable, and it was a nice pleasant drive. It wasn't in a congested area and everything. We even looked into all that stuff, and anyway, it just didn't work out with Katrina. Katrina cost us pretty much every dime we had at one point, and put us back to zero. So it does. You can be at zero, you could be up on the top of the mountain, some bad catastrophe could happen, and the next day you're at the bottom again at zero, starting off from scratch. I know somebody who had an injury, and they had a great job. The injury cost them everything, and they're starting off at some really awful low level job that mostly it's teenagers. That stuff happens. You just move on with it, and you make the best of what you got, and look for a better day, I guess you could say. Yeah, I won't do any more flipping on houses. I've done vehicles too. We did a Prevost. If you don't know what a Prevost is, look that up. Provost. It's a luxury, to say the least, motorhome. Basically, it's like it's a tour bus, basically, what Stars do. We sold one for somebody when we worked at a resort in Florida near Disney World. It was a Destiny resort. Destiny was the company that ran it. I worked there shortly after Disney made too much money for financial aid at the time, and I just took some job that would allow me to do it. That was where it was at. But anyway. Danny from Vegas, how are you doing? Sammy Runner, how are you doing? Midwest Picker, good evening, good sir. Trader Jack's, well, good evening back at you. Do you resell art? I resell art, and then I do our own artwork as well. I've got some postcards. Well, I've got a bunch that we've already sold. I don't show some if I just do it and sell it. Sometimes I sell a whole run of them to locals and things like that. And sometimes somebody will get a commission work where they'll want something to send out for a Christmas card and things like that for their own personal use, and I'll go from there. So I'll do a design, I'll print them, and just have them ship them in there. My price will be set here, and at the end of the day, they'll get a bunch of cards showing up at their house, and they won't have to do anything. They pay me, and I take care of everything else. Printing, if they want certain styles, I go over. I'm basically have a printout of the service I use to print my cards. So I'll ask them, do they want better stock? Do they want this? It's basically like an order form. It's personally done by me, and then I'll print them up and ship them out that way. Well, I won't ship them out, but they'll be shipped out once the artwork has been uploaded. I've showed how to do that in a video on The Art Professor. I use Got Print if you haven't used that before. They do a lot of other things. My business cards come from them too. Usually if you get a bunch shipped all together, 5-6 print runs, it's really lows your cost down. On postcards like that, from someone like them. If you're printing a certain amount, the shipping can add 25% to your cost of the goods. So if you can print several together and have them sent, it lowers your each order price for your cost of goods down to like $2 or $3 because it's only a couple bucks extra to add to one big shipment. Just like on eBay, same basic principle. My dog's down here and my nose has got hair. I'm sorry here. Disney Family 515, how are you doing? Oh, hang on. My feed's just bouncy. Linda, how are you doing as well? Our weather is really nasty here in Kansas. Missed a lot of work days, but worked on eBay listings while I was off. Always got that. Everybody has their own thing. I know there's a lot of people on here that have another job or do something part-time. There's nothing wrong with that. I did eBay the entire time I worked for pretty much everybody for like 15 or 20 years. So when we would do three listings, at least two. So sometimes I would just do two groupings of listings. So twice a month on a Sunday, I would list a couple hundred listings all at that, the same time frame. And then they would run till the next weekend. And, that's what I would do. So that next weekend, I wouldn't list any new ones. The following weekend, I would. It's just the way I did it. So we get so much money in based on that. I had a pretty much a formula for every 100, wasn't it 100? I think it was maybe 25 listings. I think it was 25 listings showed up on a page back in those days. You couldn't do 50, 100, 200, or 500, any of that kind of stuff like you can now. I think it was 25. And for every page of listings I had, we averaged about $125, no matter what, up to around, I think it was like $1,000, depending on what we were listing. Back then, stuff went for a lot more money. I could sell records that were just common records, left and right for, like 10 times what they were worth back in those days. Book price worth. Nowadays, the book price doesn't mean anything. I used to go by Goldmine back then, or Osborne's price guide. I don't know if anybody's into records. They probably know Osborne. Goldmine's the other one, and the VJM books are good ones too. So Vintage Jazz Mart is the other grading system if you're into records. VJM grading standards. The other one's Goldmine grading standards. VJM is for 78s. Let's see here. My feed's probably going to bop down in just a second here because I'm working my way past. Again, thanks everybody for the happy anniversary. 29 years today. Hang on, let me pop back up because it just bopped way, way down. I'm just trying to get past the anniversaries. My office has a great view. I don't want to. Carolina Picks, good evening. I don't want to miss anybody. I guess I should go a little slower now that it's back up. Trader Jacks, thank you. If I missed you. Justin Foster, good evening. Bluegrass Picker, good evening as well. SG, how are you doing? Dr. Full. This is lower Manhattan, I do believe. I've seen this in real life once before. I'm almost sure that's what it is. If I'm not mistaken. I got some new backgrounds I'll be shooting out here too. I've been playing around with adding footage into the videos. I like the footage that's in there. If you didn't know, at the end of some of my videos, in fact, a lot of them lately, there's some business-oriented clips at the end specifically. And that video is actually a good video, believe it or not, for something from the 50s, late 50s or so. Maybe it's from the 60s. I don't remember the date that was made, but it's a very good video for the time. The people that are in it, especially the guy talking with the gray hair, he's like a typically managerial type person to me. He's the type of person I've worked with. So I mean, it rung very true, those little clips that are in there. So they're after the credits too at the end on some of them. In fact, some of my videos lately, there's a couple minutes after the credits even, just FYI. SJ, I just got married Tuesday. Met my boo 28 years ago. Well, congratulations. Long time to be together and not be married. But again, everybody has their own thing. I've got friends who have never gotten married and they're still together. Recent marriages, or recent get-togethers, I guess you'd say. Back when me and my wife met, we had a huge group of people, as I said, and there's only like one pair that's left of those. But I think the divorce rate is like 50+% or some crazy number. Anyway. Let me see, where am I? God's Child, Yes Brown. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. Oh, God's Child, Yes Brown. Okay, I'm sorry. My vision's bad, so I've got to lean in nowadays even. Let's see here. Would you recommend selling vinyl on Discogs versus eBay? Discogs I sell cheaper records on. I sell like the $5, $10, $15, $20 records on Discogs. All the ones usually over that I sell on eBay. Discogs is a volume game. You need a bunch of decent lower value records, in my personal opinion, to do Discogs. I'm not saying you can't sell better records, but my overall honest opinion is LPs and 45s sell best on eBay. Cheaper, lower end LPs and 45s do good on Discogs, and then 78s do better on Amazon. Why that may be, I don't know. Well, I guess maybe Amazon's broader reach to people. Some of my items probably go overseas, I'm sure, on the Amazon issues too. So, all the things. Been out of town 2 weeks for work. Left wife behind to ship eBay sales. I just cannot list or source. Killing me. I hate working a real job. I hated working a real job too. At one point, I would have loved to take any job that was around that would have been in a price range or a decent job considering my education and experience. But after college, that wasn't around. So you got to take and deal with whatever your hand that's dealt, I guess you should say, and work towards getting out of that issue is what I've done. We've lived on ramen noodles for a little while here, and had to call and constantly tell them we don't have the money for bills and all that stuff for a while. It takes a while to get to this going. A couple years into eBay, and we still weren't doing very well, but we were at least by 2 years in or so paying the bills regularly without that issue. Nowadays it's totally different. I don't have to even check my accounts to know if I can buy something. I've got like round ballpark. I mean, I check my accounts, don't get me wrong, and I balance them all, constantly. And I look at my accounts every single day of the week just to make sure there isn't any chargebacks or anything I could possibly miss. But it takes time. That's the biggest thing. I had a comment that one of my employees was taking clips of and pointed it out. It's all your own perspective. Everybody has their own take on how things are and how things work and what you expect out of it. You take it the way it comes, I guess. I don't know how else to be on that more in-depth explanation on how that is for me. We fell into this. This isn't what I plan to do. There's a quote: "Good plans always lay to waste." I can't remember the quote, but there was a quote on something about that too. These days, obviously, we have a plan, but this isn't what I plan to do. So you never know where life's going to take you. That's why I don't worry so much these days. Right around the corner, something else could happen and change your life for the better or anything. So you never know. eBay has been a life changer. Amazon has boosted it greatly. Etsy, same thing. Discogs and Hip and Walmart. Every site we sell on has added so much more to our revenue. So all what's going on for us is it's increased year by year by year by year by year. And again, this is just the way it's happened. I put in 14-hour days on many days, in all honesty. Do I have to? No, but my sales aren't laying off. I've got the pedal to the metal, I guess you'd say. My foot's floored, and I'm just going the way it's going. So yeah, I know I'm rambling today. Let's get back to some questions here. Let's see here. Scott, how are you doing, Scott? How do you find the Search Tempest? I'm not sure, Search Tempest, what you are meaning with that. Unusual vintage. Let's see here. Jim and Julie, how are you two doing? Thank you very kindly. There's a flea market in February, you two. I'm planning on going, and maybe we can hook up and do something that one. It's at the same place I see you guys at. And maybe we can do a video or something that day. I'll probably bring my son or Ian or somebody with me to do some videos. I'm probably not going to talk to them ahead of time. Maybe I will. I don't know. Maybe they'll do it, allow me to come out there for some publicity for it. But we'll do something together. I'll try and set something up. I know it's in February. I just talked to my friend. I've got 2 or 3 people that are going to be vendors there. So maybe we can get something going for a video there, you two, okay? 2 more that I've run into in person a couple of times. I have some old rock and roll mags. Is it better to take out advertising and sell separately, or keep mags? So always keep this vintage rock mags whole. I don't know if which mags you're talking about. Maybe Rolling Stone. What's the other one? Tiger Beat. Maybe you might have. You might have. Shoot, what's the other one? And I just picked up some of those. Heavy Metal you could have. Most of those older mags like that I usually do fairly well on. Circus from the 80s does very well. Any of the 80s heavy metal ones do very well. 60s and 70s mags I usually do fairly well. Most Tiger Beats I can get $8 or $10 out of, or any of that genre class of magazines. There's like 20 titles I'll buy. TV Mirror and all that kind of stuff too. Any of that kind of stuff I usually buy. If it has someone in rock and roll, it's usually better. Elvis always will sell something for us, not for super money, but I can always pretty much guarantee I'll get $8 or $10 for any mag that has Elvis on, as long as it's in excellent condition, complete, and the whole works. Good spine, no writing, no label or anything like that. Label free are what you want, of course. I wouldn't cut them apart though. You can't sell a cut up magazine. You can only sell the ads at that point. Now, if the mags won't sell on their own, I'll sometimes cut out like tour date ads and stuff out of those kind of magazines. Just FYI. Again, there's like 20, there's a lot of titles, 10, 20 titles in 60s rock, musician style mags that we'll mess with. Bluegrass. I'm from Walt Disney's boyhood home, Marcella, Missouri. Thanks for whatever you did for the Disney family. I worked at Walt Disney World for 10 years. Met my wife there. She worked there for 10 years. We have a pension, you know, the whole works. Both of us do. We started the pension since day one, which the next year you had to wait a whole year to be vested just to start the pension. We were one of the lucky ones that, you know, we were right before they changed it, the union agreement and all that stuff. Disney was been union back when we were there. Let's see here. Let me slide down here. Selling covers, stamps, postcards, and such. I use global shipping, but many requesting first-class mail. Should I or stay with global shipping? First class international is okay to ship by because it will track to most of the countries that I ship to. I ship safely, and I have never had an issue with these countries. I do Canada, England, France, Germany, Australia, Japan, and I think that is it. Trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Switzerland I do as well. And those are the countries I ship directly to, first class international. I do not ship in a regular envelope out of this country with a stamp on it because it's illegal. I know who's going to catch you. I get that coming all the time. I just don't do it. You're not supposed to do it. Everything I print is printed through a site, so if somebody wants to check how I printed the label, they can see everything's tracked that way. To keep my top-rated plus status, I have to have tracking on the 99.9% of my items, and that way I have no issues. No favoritism if I let one person do it with the stamp. Again, I don't do it for anybody. But you don't have to do global shipping to everything. My global shipping starts at 4 pounds. So if it's over 4 pounds, everything is global shipping, even to those countries I just stated I ship to. Very, very rarely does someone buy something global shipping from those countries that I named. I mean, it's almost never happens. For the countries I directly ship to, that's over 4 pounds. Global shipping wise, I have not had a global shipping package purchased in probably 3 days, I think, maybe 4. I look at that just to judge where we're at. I've been debating on adding new countries to my direct ship after talking to numerous other sellers on their experiences. I know those countries, the ones that I stated I ship to, and I never have issues. And I ship to them all the time. I'm top rated plus in those countries. I think I'm still worldwide top rated plus, if I'm not mistaken. just because we sell enough volume to each regional area of the globe. eBay's got them broken down into like a global regions for where you got to be top rated plus to to qualify. You got to sell so many, so much dollar wise, so many merch wise, and things like that. Your feedback has to be so good and all kinds of stuff like that to keep your status. Hi, Miss Markey, Emily. I'll be honest with you. We got attacked by another channel. I'm not trying to bring up anything else, and we got some really nasty things, people wanting my kids to die and all this other stuff. And ever since then, she hasn't come on because of just the nastiness that we receive from that. She won't do another live show, and I don't really want to have her attacked or have the nastiness show up again. So she doesn't deserve that, and that's literally why. Just FYI. Somebody else asked me that just yesterday, and I've had many people have asked the same question. So it was totally uncalled for. I was in the right. The other person was not. And their video, their hatchet job on me was like 75% thumbs down versus the 25% thumbs up. So now they took a dive. They lost subscribers and everything. Not trying to bring up any wounds or anything like that, but that's why. It's just not worth, hearing stuff and the nastiness all directly coming from another channel that had nothing to do with the video that I posted that they were criticizing. So, it was a fiasco in my book, and it wasn't, something that should be called for, especially with the situation going on with my family and the health issue going on with my son. And the same person who did it, I've had another issue when they were really not a very nice person at all. I'm not going to call any names. It's water under the bridge. I could care less. But you're asking, and I've had that question asked many, many, many times. That's why, so we're not going to sit here. I don't mind it. I can take the abuse all day long. I don't really care. I've been called every name in the book in person working in restaurants. For those of you, if you ever work in a restaurant that sells alcohol, when you got to go out to a table and tell them you can't serve them any more drinks because they hit a limit or they're drunk, you're going to hear some really nasty language told to you. I've been called every name in the book. I've had windows bashed out, bottles thrown at me. I've got tough skin, I've had weapons pulled out at me and stuff. I've been in a place that was robbed at gunpoint on multiple occasions. The Eckards on Lee Road in Orlando, if you know where that's at, that one was robbed when I worked there 3 times, including one of the girls was pistol whipped. Never came back again after they broke her jaw. So stuff happens. I've worked in some tough places. As the one in Meridian was a place I had to hire off-duty police to police the restaurant. And this is an Applebee's we're talking about too, but I've had windows broken in the restaurant and stabbing in the restaurant. It's what happens. Everything isn't all fine and dandy all the time, and that's life. But she's going to be in the Weebles videos. We're going to do some recorded videos and stuff like that too. So you'll see her again real soon, but just not in any more lives or any of that stuff here. And there'll be specifics for where she shows up. Nothing against anybody else, but we don't deserve that, neither did she. So Ecom Squad, how are you doing? Eddie, how are you doing there, Eddie? I'd fly in from Florida if there's beer. Would love that. Okay. Yeah, I doubt I'll be able to do alcohol, or would do it. I wouldn't want be responsible for anybody doing anything stupid on the roads. Hey, Nancy, how are you doing? Good evening. Gary in Daytona, good evening as well. Hang on, let me slide out. It looks like I gotta... How many times a day do you charge your cell phone? At night. When I come home, I charge it at night. It's usually the only time I do charge my cell phone, I think. When I go out source, my phone I don't really have to use much anymore to source. I'm buying in big bulks most of the time. I mean, literally, can't tell you when I've charged my phone out other than at night. It's got a specific spot. It sits every single night. And it's a routine. Again, I've got it all set up as a routine. My phone doesn't die like that. I don't know what everybody else's longevity is on their phone, but I don't think I've ever used my phone. I don't talk on my phone very often at all. I'm not a big phone person, so I don't text very much. I text Dom and a couple other folks. I usually call some other folks too. We have a landline. I know not many people seem to have a landline these days, but I've had a landline forever. It's a business number as well, so I use it as well because I've got DSL, into this location. And as well, we've got Wi-Fi capabilities these days too, if DSL's down. So either way, that's just me. I never have a phone issue like that. I'm not a phone person at all. I would, if it wasn't for reselling and maybe if a car broke down or something, I don't even know if I'd own a cell phone, in honesty. I'm not a big phone talker. I'm not a big major texter. I do text as I do with Dom and some other folks too, but where are we? Justin, how are you doing? Mary, good evening, Mary. I'm in the early stages of planning one in Central Ohio too. Yeah, it would be in the Toledo area. It would be Toledo, Holland, Sylvania, somewhere out there. Do I use a DSL or do a DSLR or a phone for pics? I don't use a phone for pics at all. Never. I have a excuse me. I have a Nikon D5300 that's our workhorse. I've got a backup one, and I've got one in the shop now that's having the threads, the tripod mount threads were stripped. I don't know if you guys know, but on a DSL to have those threads fixed, it's $100 and some odd bucks because they got to disassemble the entire camera. The part's like $2. I probably could have done it because I've taken apart. My son's got a GPD, I think it's called. It's like a mini computer. It's like a regular laptop, but it's only like this big. It flips open. You can look them up, GPD or GDP. I think it's a GPD is what it's called. And I've taken that apart before, and we've replaced batteries and stuff. My son's had it for a while. It was like a Kickstarter, I think at one time, but it's from Japan. Thing's pretty awesome for what it is. It's literally got the power of our 17-inch laptops in this tiny little thing. It's 2.8 gigahertz. I mean, it's a decent size and everything for this tiny little unit. It's really amazing, honestly. Yeah, I'll be looking into it again on setting maybe something up. I've talked about it before, but I don't really want. I'm always worried about the hate after that video thing because I had to really control myself not to go back and say things about some of these comments, especially when somebody wishes your kid get hit by a car. I mean, I'm sorry, but anyway, that's the only reason we've been hesitant on doing anything else. We took a lot of people just sending hate our way, and I've never done that. I would never do that to somebody, and I could have just called out names and who it was and stuff, and I still haven't done that because that's not me. I would never attack another person in that way. You guys know I've been on here for almost 2 years. Altogether, I've got like 830 videos between Patreon and here, and I've never attacked anybody specifically. I don't even mention names at all. There's no sense. It's a waste of my time. I'm not a drama person. Yeah, DSLR though, as I said, we've got a couple Nikon D5300s. The Sony, I've got an A6400 that I use for the videos. That's a bomb. I wish I could use that for regular photos, but it's just not worth moving everything around for that. Carlene, how are you doing? Jason Blake, good evening as well. Do you wake up and start working immediately after shower and such? First, of course. Depends on what I'm doing. Usually I'm getting up my son, and while he's getting ready for school, I'm on, pulling stuff usually, or checking email and voicemail that we have. And I've got a voice box too that I have to check every morning. That's usually what I do first thing in the morning. I usually got about 30 minutes before I take him to school, 15, 20 minutes round trip for school, depending on traffic. And then I'm literally first thing in eBay or something every morning. By 11 o'clock, rain or shine, I try to have everything packed. Obviously, if I'm busy or I've ended up packing until 12 or 1 o'clock easily, with 2 people packing. I've showed some videos, and if you're on Patreon or on Instagram again, you can see some photos of some of the stuff in our packages and stuff that go out, the quantity. There's days where I've sold a couple hundred items in one day, easily, just on eBay. We've sold $6,000 in one day before, all little or small items and stuff, not big high dollar stuff, just the average bread and butter style items. That's what we do. Let me slide down here. Jennifer, how are you doing, Jennifer? Did you ever figure out how to print the two-sided label for eBay? Two-sided label. I'm not sure what two-sided label we were talking about. If you're talking about double labels on the same sheet, that's automatic. I don't know if that's what you're talking about or not. Jar my brain if we've discussed that before. I talk about so many things with so many people. Sometimes it's really hard. I definitely recognize you, Jennifer. You've commented many times and you've been on the live feed as well too. I think I've even pulled one of your questions for my question videos. Again, I got one of those coming out soon too. Shelly, Kootenays, Canada. That is upper maybe. That's more like Midwest of in Canada, Saskatchewan maybe. I know I've seen that name on a postcard before. Don is a workaholic machine. My definition of workaholic isn't what I do. That's not it. I'm passionate about what I do, and I like it. It's not work, so I don't relate what I do to being a workaholic. I'm just doing my passion. I saw something the other day. It was Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, and Mike Rowe talking about passions for suckers. I'm sorry. It depends on your thoughts on something. I would rather be passionate, enjoy what I do, and make less money than have a bad job that I make a lot of money in. That's just me. I mean, I know somebody might think I'm crazy, but that's personally what I feel. I'd rather be happy and make less money. When we started having kids, I made sure the wife didn't have to work. We made a lot less money than we could have made, but we're a really tight family because everything was about the family as opposed to anything else. So she raised them. There was no daycare. Again, there's nothing wrong with putting a child in daycare because that's what a lot of people have to do. We have never done it. I've lived in some areas that I didn't feel safe our kids being away from us in those areas, like 9/11 for being in D.C. in 9/11, or being down south for hurricanes or sniper shootings or whatever the case may be. There's just so many reasons. We just didn't do daycare. We'd see the stories, and where we lived in Florida, somebody left a child in a van at a daycare, and the child died in the heat. That was literally like 5 miles from where we lived. It was a place that we could have actually used, but so we've always been paranoid on that. Maybe we're helicopter parents. I don't know what you want to call us, but we're just a tight family. We know what we think. We laugh at the same things. That's why I've been together with my wife for 30 plus years. So, I mean, we're good friends. We're not just married. We've always shared bank accounts, and there's no secrets. And I know everybody says, well, everybody's got a secret. If you guys knew us, there isn't. I was talking, I was at a doctor's appointment for one of my sons, and they were asking all these questions and stuff about, worries and stuff like that, my son and some of his issues and stuff. And I said, well, we don't really worry about, whether he's being honest because we know our kids. And, well, nobody knows. And think about what you were doing. And I'm like, my relationship with my parents is totally different than my relationship with my kids. I know everybody says their kids are great kids and everything. That's just what you do. But my kids have proven their worth, in more ways than one. And I've done the teacher talk and all that. So I know my kids they're on the honor roll and all that stuff. And I'm not trying to blame or say our kids are the world's greatest. I know everybody. And you don't have to have kids at all. I know some of my best friends don't have kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody makes their own bed, and they lay in it, and that's where you go. But I don't know. Rambling on again. I'll change the subject here. We'll get back to work and stuff. Vicksburg. Cindy, I brought you guys in Fredericksburg. I brought you guys Einstein Brothers. I'm the reason you guys have Einstein Brothers in Fredericksburg. I worked for them as a regional there, and we supplied the ones in that area. Let's see here. Kathy Glassford, Canada also. My son goes to Canada. I've been to Canada. We're going to Canada this year. You'll see some videos in like 3 or 4 months from now, videos from Canada, sourcing videos, the whole works. We will be in Canada. We're going to do Niagara Falls with my sister-in-law and some other family. So, we're going to be there sourcing while we're there. We source wherever we go, anytime we're on vacation. So We'll show you Canada. I'm sure there's some YouTubers from Canada. I don't watch enough YouTube videos these days at all to say, but let's see here. Thanks for the price assessment of my items posted on Patreon. Well, you're welcome, Greg. I'll be on tomorrow too for anything Patreon related. This week has been a little sporadic. I think there's an email that I have not gotten to, but I've been really good on 48 hours or less in all emails in Patreon, just FYI. So if you want to get me the quickest in Patreon members, email me through Patreon. That's the one that it goes straight to my phone. I may not be able to get to it instantly, and something might be going on, but those are the first things I check on. I don't check my business email until after Patreon, if that gives you an idea. So if it takes me 40 hours for my Patreon, it's more than that for my business emails. Most of the time it's people wanting something or wanting services or something, and I don't have time for most of that. So let's see here. Day-to-day, got to have a schedule and allow time for you away time. Yeah. For me, if I want to, sometimes I'll just put on music really loud, and I'm fine with that. I can work all day long. I got OCD, ADD, so if I've got an issue, I can't. I'm there, and my wife will tell you. I've been up till 6 in the morning until I had a PC or laptop all reset up again. If something crashes or something, or there's a glitch or something, I'll fix it. I've never not fixed it. I haven't had a PC, laptop, or any electronic device into a shop in. I got an IT degree, so just FYI, but it's been like a decade, more than that, probably 15 years. I do every IT repair we got here. I have a BS and a master's as well, too, but not trying to brag, that's just what I have. I work from about 6:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. and then off and on until we go to bed. Yeah, sometimes I do that too, Carl. 6:30 is a good judge. Again, I get up earlier than that usually, and I'm getting my son ready and stuff. So I'm still working part of that time, but typical day. I don't have to do these hours. I'd probably just stay where we're at monetary wise if I didn't do all the extra stuff and not worry about it. But we got plans. I've got a vision, and my goals are set in my head. We met and surpassed our goal for revenue this year from last year. 2019's revenue was a considerable amount up, almost 18%. That's pretty darn good. And that's all revenue. Everything coming in the door was up 18% over the prior year. But again, we've branched out. I'm doing other sites. I've got other stuff going on. Obviously, we make some money on YouTube. If I show people how much I made, you'd be surprised why I still do YouTube itself. But you don't make as much money. I don't do the videos that get all the buzz and all the feed. I had my 6th most popular video I just put up last week. It's already up to number 6 in my ranking. And for me, that's good. And it only has like 13 or 14,000 views on it. So, there's channels that every one they put out gets, 50, 100,000. I had somebody tell me, you need all these other views and you're trying to do this and trying to do that. I don't try to do that. If I did, I would have all those extra views. I just not me. I'm just me, and I'm not going to try to be something I'm not just for views. Most of the stuff I talk about, a lot of people aren't interested in too. So I don't get anywhere near the push outs that a lot of other channels do, and I don't do a lot of cross channel stuff. I do Dom's channel, and that's really about it these days. I'm not saying I wouldn't go on. There's a couple channels that I would probably do other stuff with too, and I have done stuff with some other channels. You've seen Wade and Scott and a few other folks in some of my videos before. Wade's a really good guy, I think I've had Wade maybe on twice, if maybe I'm not mistaken. Maybe one of these days I'll have to have Scott back on too and stuff. I've been talking about maybe doing a few other people on our channel. I'm just not as big on that as much. Me and Dom get along, and not that I don't get along with any of the other folks, but we have a lot in common. Dom's probably got the most in common with me than anybody else I think that I see on YouTube or have seen. Maybe there's other people that do similar stuff, but Dom education-wise and family-wise, and again, I'm not trying to say without an education. I have many friends who didn't go to college. That doesn't mean anything. We have similar stuff to talk about, I guess, is the point on that. similar experiences, I guess, is the point. He went through similar things. He was in school in Florida, and, we've got a lot of similar places we've been. I've been in New York more than several times, probably a dozen or so times, and, you find someone who's similar, and we get along very well. Everybody likes the shows when we do me and Dom together. He's going to be on my channel next time. We haven't talked about a date yet. I wanted to have him on one day this month, but the way it's looking with my schedule's been pretty terrible, to say the least. And terrible is a nice word for my schedule lately. Not work related wise, but just in general with family and everything. Hang on, I'm going to try and there we go. Wake up early Saturdays and do some stuff, but then the rest of the day is off and with the beautiful lady. I work Saturdays most of Saturday. We ship Saturdays. It's usually partial day. I never work on a Saturday past, say, 4 or 5. I work a good 8 or 10 hours on Sunday also. I work 7 days. But Sunday is my day. I lock myself in my studio and I do art stuff. That's all I do. I may do video for art. Saturday, I have people working usually, and then Saturday, I'm doing videos, or I got somebody else doing videos. So Saturday, we usually edit or do like 3 or 4 videos. That's usually a day I do that. So like Monday through Friday is like all reselling. That's pretty much all I do. Me. I may sit in and record a video, and then somebody else will do the rest. But anyway. Let's see here. Scott, once established, flexibility gets easier. 100%. 100%. Well, I'm going to say this, and I know people are like, everybody can't hire employees, but the first time you hire an employee and you realize that you're getting that much more done, you may realize that the route to go would be having somebody come in. There's only so many hours in a day, and I can't hit every aspect of what I even need to hit right now, even with the help I have right now. We've been we're literally been looking around for a bigger, full-fledged warehouse. We may buy something with a outbuilding with, like a large, I don't know what you'd want to call it, but a large facility on the same property. I don't know yet, but we are looking. We've saved up the money for it, so it's now just the time of finding something and dual purpose, so I can use it for other things too. So I need a big studio where I can have multiple things working at the same time. I don't like having dual use counter space and stuff like that too. I was trying to clear out space in the main area where I do most of the artwork, and I keep getting picks, and I clear off a shelf, and then the next week or two I pick up a huge massive quantity, and now I got 3 more big full totes sitting on the shelves that were just supposed to be clear. But that's life, I guess, for everybody. If I had a bigger facility, I'd be able to address it and attack it better and get somebody else in it. Right now, I think I'm at max for the space we're using for how many employees we are running out of it. 9 employees, 10 borderline is about the max I could feel safe doing out of where we're at now. Let's see here. Then Sunday I make up for the time fulfilling Saturdays and Sundays orders all day. I list during the week as time allows. I never pack up till Monday. I don't pre-pack on Sunday evenings. I used to do that, but I don't anymore. Literally, I lock myself away on Sundays with art. Let's get to a few. I'm going to cut it off in just a little bit here. Gary and Daytona, I worked at the yearbook staff too. They let me use a cool Hasselblad box camera. Been looking for one since. I've used them. I did the cameras. Back then it was a 386 or a 286 or something I think we used. And it was green text screen. And that was where we typed the text into. It was basically just like those typewriter word processors, but a computer. It was very barbaric for back in the day. It used the big 5-inch floppies, the whole works. It was slow, barbaric, and it was only, and I think you had to load like a file just to change the font, if I remember, each time you wanted to change the font back then too. That's going back to the mid to like 80, 85, 86 probably. So you can look up what technology was then. Paul B., any more updates from eBay on the ongoing issues of decline in sales due to recent changes they have made? I haven't had any issues with declined sales, so I can't speak on that. People that I talk to that sell similar items haven't had that issue either. I know Dom's sales have been going up and up. So has Duncan's and several other people that I personally talk to. And it's not hearsay because I see other people's accounts, so it's not like I don't. I see other people's seller side of their account too. People send me stuff, and I do help some folks occasionally, and so I do get scans and photos and things like that too. Only from people that I know. So if you send one to like my auction professor at att.net email address, chances are if you send an attachment, I won't see the attachment. I'll see the message, but I won't see the attachment. I don't open up anything through certain systems. I have a safety and a Net Plus cert, and I'm very, very careful on everything. I don't cloud compute either. And Paul, I'm not saying there isn't an issue with that either, Paul, with decline sales. I can just tell you what I have an experience on it. I do get people telling me that they had some issues with sales. It all comes down to what you sell, in my personal opinion, and how hard you work your store. There's a lot of things that I just put up and leave, but there's certain items until you know you got it right on titles and photos and all that stuff, you might have to go in, every 30 days to most of your listings and maybe tweak a keyword, add something very specific that you missed. Every time I do a store review, every single time, I could point out dozens of listings that the keyword is missing. The main keyword that would sell that item isn't in the listing. Or you're giving out too much information and no one's looking. You're getting no views, no watchers, no nothing. There's so many things you can do. Sometimes you're putting too much information in the title, and they'll read too much into it and not even look at your listing. Sometimes you're not putting enough. It just depends on the specific item. I find in some vintage items, the least amount of information you can put in a title with, the least amount of good key or of information, not necessarily keywords. You want like 2 or 3 keywords, and that's about it sometimes. And don't put any other information. It's going to force somebody to look at the listing to see what you're selling. It might make some people aggravated, but I always get more views. I always get more watchers, and I always get more sales on very specific niches when I do that. The least amount of condition. Obviously, if it's clothing, everything needs to be in there. Every size, description, neck, length, everything needs to be in there. You need to do free shipping on clothing. You need to do probably promoted listings. Again, I don't do promoted listings. I don't pay eBay for any promoted listings. I haven't since their ad blocker issues. So anyway, I don't do that. I'm not going to mess with any of their stuff. We've been working towards moving listings and crossing them on other platforms. So, I'm not worried. I don't look at just eBay sales anymore. I should say that. A lot of people only look at eBay because that's all you're doing. I look at the bottom line, my very bottom line on my P&L sheets. That's what I look at, which has everything now grouped in. So percentages up are based on all platforms, all forms of revenue I've got coming in. So you take that how you want to take that aspect of it, but that's how we do it. Let's see here. I'm in Pensacola. Been through there many times. There used to be a big antique mall right off of Route 10 through Pensacola, just on the outskirts heading west. Good evening, deep end of the sandbox. Hang on, it just bounced, and I was just reading one. I hate when it does that. Mr. Buys a lot. Well, thank you very kindly for the $5 super chat. That's very appreciative. Just a little appreciation for your help. Give others. This is great business, and people like you make it better. Well, thank you very kindly. For some reason, it didn't show up here. Hopefully, I didn't miss anybody else. My feed is terrible today. In fact, I've lost my spot. Okay, hang on. We're getting close. I'm sorry. When my feed bounces, it totally puts me somewhere else. Hang on. There was a question. I was just reading it. Crazy Javier. Don, what kind of art do you do? I do fantasy child book style illustrations. I used to do photorealistic portraits in charcoal and pencil. I really need to do another one with the good camera so you can actually see it better. All the videos I've got, it's just not clear, or there's glare from the force I put on the paper. It makes a gleam, and it just never looks quite right. I talked to somebody the other day on what they do, and I might try their setup to try and get it. But I do postcards, I do prints, I do shirts sometimes, not as much as I used to. Mostly it's printed artwork or designs and stuff like that. Anthropomorphic, vintage style, Christmas, greeting cards, postcards, things like that. I do sculptures, as I said. I do toys to figures. I got a Santa Claus. In fact, let me just show you one since I get questions on that. It's a little dusty, but here's Santa Claus. He's made from scratch. I made and sculpted the face. This is mink fur. This is alpaca, his hair. This fabric is double laced with like sparklies on it. And it's from like a 1910 ladies cape. This is real velvet from probably 20s or 30s. Real leather belt, sterling buckle, leather boots. I made him literally from scratch. He'll stand up on his own and everything. It's been a little while, so maybe he'll still stand up. So, and he's weighted. He's literally got some metal inside him. He's got an armature so he can bend. Made from scratch. I made this one from scratch. Something like this, just I sell them for $450 to say $650, depending on how much I have into them. This one's not for sale. My son claimed this one here, but in fact, this is the only one I have right now. All the other ones are already sold. The buttons on here, even his buttons, are silver-plated buttons from the 1830s. These are ball buttons, 1830s or 40s from a shoe. So everything on here is legit. Leather on his boots, it's real leather. Pants are from like a 1910-ish, some kind of like, I don't know what you want to call it. It's not really a skirt. It goes over a skirt or something. I don't really know what you'd want to call it, but it's all vintage, as I said. These are literally mink from an old mink coat I cut up. But he's all movable and everything. His head's not movable. His head is sculpey. I do that kind of stuff. I know. But they sell. I made a lot of money on those, It's just my thing. Where are we at here? We have found a few art items at thrift stores here, and I am considering getting one machine to do some art type stuff, hopefully soon. You got to find a niche in art too. Excuse me, my dog is going to drive me nuts. Everything takes a niche. Art takes a niche. Everything you do. I do postcards, and I sell them in the postcard category. It like if I do, sometimes I could do 6 designs and only one really moves. But that one that moves pays for all the printing and everything of all the other designs and makes me a really good profit. So every design doesn't move. I can say, though, that every design I have ever printed, I have made a profit on. At least double, triple my money no matter what. Every single one I've ever done. And you don't have to sell a lot of some of the postcards to get your money back because you don't pay very much when you order a certain quantity. I only do limited runs of anything I do too, and they're done. I will be doing a second printing of one of my most popular postcards. One of the pig ones that I've done, just because I'm almost out and I keep getting people asking. So anyway, let me slide down. We're going to cut it off in just a minute here. Yeah, Discogs isn't bad, Adam. It just depends on what you're selling there. Kathy, how are you doing? San Diego. I've been there once before. National televised gold. Oh, golf. Oh, yeah, I don't watch any sports on TV at all. I don't watch much TV, honesty. There is one show that I'm so tempted. I used to watch Next Generation, and I really want to watch Picard, That's probably going to be his last ever series he ever stars in. I think he's 79 now, and he looks really good, The previews I saw looked really good. I'm just not one to sign up for something like CBS because it would be the only thing I watch on there at all. I don't watch regular TV or anything like that. We've cut the cable probably 16 or 17 years ago now, so, you know, just the way it is. Well, Marie, you don't have to do that. Well, I greatly appreciate the $40 super chat. You really don't have to do that, though. Thank you, Don. You have sincerely helped me up my game. I appreciate your sharing your knowledge. You are a treasure here. Well, honestly, I do appreciate that. It's not something you had to do. I really don't even pay attention to them until I get one. So again, thank you very kindly. That's really appreciated all the way around here, in all honesty. Again, not something everybody has to do. You're not required to do something like that. I honestly appreciate that. It's surprising, you don't have to do that. I'm sorry, my throat. That dog. Never used to bother me, but the hair these days, and we bathe our dogs all the time. They're just chihuahuas, but still. Karen, raining very hard in Indiana. Gary, I like the boardroom background. Yeah, I'm going to use it again, too. I have memories of being in New York, and I remembered this. It's where I think it's the lower section of Manhattan, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. Yeah, we were there after the tower, so that's probably when I remember it too, yeah. That wasn't my choice to put it. I might not use this one again just because of that. Carl, I love the ending clips. World Financial. Yeah, I thought it was the Financial Center. I've seen it years ago, and we've got like personal pictures of this same area. We did travel to New York right after 9/11 because I handled that region up there, and we were just a few miles from Pentagon when I got hit, just outside of Pentagon City. So, let's see here. Carolina Picks, how are you doing, good sir? Don, how is that large album lot of 33s you bought way back selling? I got about 300 1970s albums, paid 50, sold like crazy over Christmas. I haven't went through many of them. We've sold enough to get all of our money back, and we made like $2,000, $3,000, enough to be fine with it. On albums like that, I think they've all been sorted through. I may have like 6 and 8 copies of the same record, so we'll sort them up, and then they're listed accordingly. So when one sells, they'll pull another one out, stuff like that. I don't put up quantities of the same one. You can spreadsheet them and stuff like that, if you're in the business to sell them specifically. Rock records always go very well. Sometimes we'll blow them out too. We'll do lots of so many records too, but I haven't played with them as much as I should. We've got hundreds of thousands of records, in all honesty. I got a lot of records. That is not the biggest pick I've ever gotten by far, in all honesty. Usually I buy 45s, though, just because they're easier to move. LPs, you gotta have the good ones, the top ones. Sales for LPs are down because of all the newer re-releases and stuff. That's what's killing the market, in my personal opinion. I'm not saying we're not selling records or anything. It's just not what it used to be. I could sell them left and right before they started mass shooting out reissues of everything, 190 gram record, whatever they're doing with all that. I don't even pay attention to that. Again, thank you, Marie. I honestly and sincerely appreciate that. Oh, let's see here. I see you, Eddie. I did get down to you. Yeah, man makes plans, God laughs. There you go. Let me just get a couple more here. We're getting really long time-wise. Where'd we go? Disney Family 15. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. That's about it. Yep. Marjorie, you've got it right there. Let's see here. The best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. That is exactly what I was thinking of. Jason, do you regard Etsy as a viable platform for selling postcards as hip postcards? No, I do not. It really depends on the cards you have and what you're selling them for. Etsy, I feel more holiday-oriented items sell better on Etsy than, say, on Hip or something like that. Hip's mostly going to be town scenes from my personal experience. Real photo, real picture postcards go pretty well on Hip. But Christmas and like Valentine's and Easter stuff goes very well on Etsy, depending on pricing and, what you have up, I guess. Crawdaddy. Now, we love crawfish. I had crawfish today, actually. And Elvis has a song called Crawfish. Hang on. My feed just disappeared. Ding, ding, ding. How are you doing? If only I still had my old Circus and Tiger Beat magazines. I have some Circus somewhere at my mom's house, probably, from 80s heavy metal hair bands, I would say still. Search Tempest is a site that allows for searching all of Craigslist at once. Oh, didn't realize you're turning for Dom. I don't use any of that stuff. I hardly ever mess with Craigslist. I got better. For me, I've got better places. I can just go somewhere direct. I very rarely look at Craigslist anymore at all. Around here, it's mostly people like me just getting rid of their junk, in all honesty. Probably, if I'm calling on records, 98% of the time, it's somebody that's a record dealer around here that's getting rid of his junk. And that's literally the facts of Craigslist here. I'm not saying it's like that everywhere, because I've driven out of town to smaller towns and bought stuff that's pretty good off Craigslist in the past. But these days, Craigslist is not what it used to be at all. I used to find stuff on Craigslist constantly. I don't think a day went by if I looked at any given time that I couldn't find something pretty decent on Craigslist. But nowadays, and even around here, people don't like to meet up in the winter, so even when there would be something good, they don't just put up as much stuff in the winter, from my personal experience up here in the north. We're just going to take one more question. Ari Liba, how are you doing? Let's see here. Let's see here. Let me get past that conversation. Yeah, Marky and the Weebles will be coming on. We were just talking about finishing everything up today. Is it okay to copy someone's listing on eBay? No, it is not. That's against the rules. If I want to copy, if I'm looking at, like, let's say somebody's got a better title than me, I'm going to have to make this the last one, but if somebody's got a better title than me, I may use everything in their title, but, like, switch it around just a little bit. I never try to mimic somebody else's title. I never use anybody's photos. I never do any of that stuff. It's just not legit in my book. Everything is fresh just for me. I do look at competitors of mine, and I've got a list. I keep their names. I know who they are. And I look at what they're doing and see how their sales are going. And from there, I'll sometimes change. Why I do zoom-ins is because of someone else that I've been following for a while. It's always a good practice to see what other people are doing in the same categories that you sell in, to see if they're up, down, or what are they doing. If they're doing something that's making movement, like the zoom-ins on paper items, I tried it. It definitely worked. And, that's where I went. Now, if I hadn't watched my competitor, I probably wouldn't be doing that even at this point. The person who does it does good money. He sells, the one that I saw the zoom-ins from, and he sells similar items to me, and he does similar pricing to me, too. Now, his pricing structure changed, I think, since I've been on, because he does similar number bases. Like, he'll have some, like, the same price range as I will, and he'll use the same numbers. Like, I use 34.50, 37.50, 57.50, and things like that, 27.50. 1750, 1850. That all means something to me, and it looks like he's doing the same thing too. So, but we're gonna end it on that. I hate to cut it off, but we're running on the hour and a half, and I didn't really plan on being on this long. just been a really bad week for us here. So, family-wise, life-wise, in general. So, anyway, we're going to cut it off at there. I do appreciate everybody coming on. Marie and Mr. Bias a lot. Thank you both for your super chats. It's honestly and sincerely greatly appreciated. You know, I don't expect it. No one has to do it. You know, but it is gratefully and sincerely appreciated on my behalf. If I missed somebody on there, please just shoot me out one in the comment section down below, and I'll go back and check it. Sometimes it doesn't show up when my feed disappears. It doesn't show up the chats at the top. It's the only way I can know that they're on there. But again, I thank everybody for coming on, and I hope you all have a good evening. Video up tomorrow on Patreon, video up tomorrow on YouTube as well.